This tutorial will address how to cite a book with multiple authors. I assume that you've already watched the more general tutorial about how to cite a book, and so we're not going to cover any of the information except what to do with the author information. So we're going to look at this book here as an example by G.K. Beale and Mitchell Kim, and of course we'll be following the paradigms from the SBL Handbook of Style, specifically the paradigm on 6.2.2, a book with 2 or 3 authors. And so you can see really the only difference here between citing a book with multiple authors and a book with one author is what you do with this first element here, what you do with the author. And basically you're going to list the authors in the order that they appear on the book, on the title page of the book, and I'll show you how to do that here. Getting back to our example. You do not list the authors alphabetically, you list them in the order they appear here. And so in this case, we will type in the first author's name, followed by a comma, and then we'll add the second author's name. Two things quickly to note here. One, you put a comma after the first author's first name, or in this case middle initial, and then write and put the second author's name. For the second author, you put the first name first. You do not put the last name first with the second author, only with the first one. And so that's fairly simple there, and how to do that. When I want to translate that into writing a footnote, again, I will write both authors' names, but in this case, as you typically do with footnotes, we'll put the first name first for both authors. So that's what that should look like in the full footnote with both authors' names. Then if I cite that source a second time and I do the short footnote, again I can put both authors' last names only. And that's what a short footnote should look like. So again, hopefully that's fairly simple and easy to do. The variation, of course, comes when you start to add more authors. If you're only going to add one more author, then you can still list the names much like you've seen here. I'll just make up a name as an example. So I just add the name in there, again putting the first name first, followed by a comma, and then the before the final author, and the same thing in the footnotes. And that's what that would look like. Now, if you get more than 3 authors, that's where things can get a little bit more interesting. And if you look in the SBL Handbook of Style, it shows you what to do in this case. Typically, then, what you would do is in the footnote, you would just only put the first author's name followed by the abbreviation et al. You'll notice that you include both the period right before and the comma with this abbreviation. And then in the bibliography, the SBL Handbook recommends that you write out every author's name, even if there's more than 3, though it is acceptable to use the abbreviation et al. If you have an extremely long list of authors. So that's what you need to do when you're citing sources, books that have multiple authors.